Hey everybody, welcome back to the DECODED podcast. In this episode, I'm speaking to Jonathan David, who is the CEO of FlexEarn, a fast-growing FinTech company. If you are interested in running startups, if you're interested in leading people, if you're interested in the future of technology, then I'd highly recommend giving this episode a watch. So enjoy the conversation, and as always, don't forget to click subscribe. Jonathan, thanks for coming on the podcast.
No worries, it's great to be here and thank you very much for inviting me.
Cool, my pleasure. So, you're the CEO of FlexEarn, a fast-growing fintech business. So what advice would you give to other leaders who want to start their own company? You know, you are a couple of steps ahead of where they might be. They might have an idea, they might just be going. You're a couple of years in at this point. What would you do differently if you started over? What advice would you give to them?
Yeah, so I would say, focus on problem solving. So find a real world problem, focus on the solution for that, and just have a laser focus on addressing those points. Be really adaptable, as well as persistence. Everyone says, keep pushing on every door. But for me, it was all about pivoting. Everyone says pivoting as well. But what that means is, have an idea. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We didn't. With earned wage access, we saw it existed in the States and we thought that would be great over here. But what we pivoted into was focusing on SMEs, small and medium-sized companies, which are completely unserved. And so really focus on being very adaptable, balance growth with operational efficiency. So a lot of companies are like, right, we have to get to 1,000, 2,000 users, but that can come back to haunt you. So just really focus on, how this will look as you scale and make it really, really robust. And always have a customer-centric approach. So I jump on our customer support channel regularly, speak to our customers, more the end users of our app. And just sort of see what they need, find out why they're using the system, and really build around providing value to customers.
Cool, amazing. Well, there's a couple of threads that we can look at there. So solving a problem, that's what you opened with. I love that because ultimately that's all a business is really. You're seeing a problem out there in the world. There's probably already a set of solutions designed for that problem. But if you believe those solutions are weak and if you've got a better one, then that's how you start a new company. Because I was having this conversation with a friend the other day. We said that in theory, a startup shouldn't exist because a big incumbent that does that job should be able to do it better than you can if they've got more money, more resources, more time, more energy, more efforts, whatever. But if you've got a unique way of solving that problem, then boom, you're off to the races. Do you agree that businesses are fundamentally about providing a solution to, I guess, just a problem that's out there in the world?
Absolutely, yeah. And at FlexEarn, our big competitor was payday loans, right? And it was rife, right? Because people on low earnings need credit. If unexpected expenses crop up, you need credit. The problem with that is, you are taking consumer credit risk to people on minimum wage or whatever that might have poor credit. They don't all have poor credit. Sure. And you have to, justify that by charging a very high interest rate. The problem with that is what happens when there's a default. So our solution was to address the same problem, but in a very different way by actually allowing people access to their own wages that they've earned without taking any risk as we get repaid by the company. So it's a really beautiful solution that allows people to access some cash when they need it in emergencies without taking that risk that can really sort of affect people's financial well-being. And it affects the company as well if there's a default.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's definitely a risk that employees would face. You said something else in your first answer. You said about having a customer obsession, and And I completely agree with this. I do all the customer support myself. It's at a point where eventually you kind of do need to delegate some of it. But when you're doing things which don't scale, that is one of the best ones that you can do, because you can understand in real time where the problems are, what needs to be fixed, and then it's not Chinese whispers going through 5 people. You directly know what needs to be done. Instantly you can fix it, and your response to the problem could be, hey, it's now fixed. And that's a much better way of handling users rather than just kind of offshoring it to some remote team somewhere, and maybe they'll look at it, maybe they won't, and that sort of thing.
Exactly, yeah. Customers often get quite surprised when I jump on the channel and start firing questions at them.
Yeah.
But often it ends up in a conversation, and we start chatting, and you find out about their real world experiences, and solutionize around that.
Cool. So prior to FlexEarn, you worked in investing and trading. So what tips would you give to business leaders that are trying to secure capital for their company? I know that you've got a nice investor, and a lot of people that listen to this, they're really struggling with their pitch. They're really struggling to get meetings. They're really struggling to get that first $1 into the business from outside. What recommendations can you give to people that are going through that journey?
Sure. My first advice is don't. Don't raise money. If you can, avoid it in any way. And we didn't for the first year. We really bootstrapped. I was hitting up friends, especially in tech, saying, hey, do you want to jump on board and help this startup? But it gets to the point where you might need to at some point. If you do, if you're even thinking about raising money in the future, just leverage those relationships now. Meet as many people as you can. Meet people that know investors in the area that you're looking at. And even if you don't end up raising money or doing the startup, those relationships will serve you well. When you meet investors, I think, really work on your narrative. So work on your 30-second elevator pitch, your 2-minute elevator pitch, your 10-minute elevator pitch. Investors love a story. As much as they love projections, anyone can do a forecast. But think about your story. Think about why this is exciting and solving a problem. Focus on traction over projections. So if you can beg, borrow, and steal to get your first customer, your first revenue, just do it, because that's evidence, that's proof of something to come. Be really transparent. Investors can smell bullshit, right? So you just be completely honest. If you have no revenue, say you have no revenue. Investors really, really appreciate that. Once the trust is gone, it's completely gone. And know your numbers, right? Like, projections aren't the most important thing, but really know it inside out. Do your market research. What are your competitors doing? And just get out there. Cool.
Right. There's so many different pieces there that we can go into briefly. So let's work backwards. So know your numbers, right? I see so many people on Dragon's Den, on Shark Tank, whatever the show, and I know that's not quite how investing really works in the real world a lot of the time, but if you're pitching to a VC or an angel or PE or an office, and they ask you, hey, what are your sales? What's your gross? What's your net? Sure, you might be an amazing technologist. Sure, you might be an amazing salespeople, but you still need to understand the fundamental basics of that stuff, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I would say practice. Sit down, have a practice pitch with your mates in the pub or whatever.
Definitely.
And
film yourself doing it and watch the recording back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great idea. And a lot of your projections will be based on assumptions, which might turn out not to be real. But as long as you can justify them and say, well, this is based on what our competitors are doing, or this is based on an adjacent industry like payday loans. This is how much people need. That's what I did. And just knowing your numbers really gives investors confidence in you.
The assumptions might be flawed. They probably are flawed and they're probably wrong, but it's better than nothing. And it's going, look, here's the direction we're working towards, and here's what we think is realistic and possible in that time frame. And that ties back to the tractions so much, because if you have got a wonderful idea, like, great, but so have 50 other people. Like, have you actually got a wait list of people that are willing to try this on day one? Have you actually got people signed up and done contracts and agreements? Not just people telling you it looks good, but people willing to give you money.
Exactly, yeah. And just, it proves the concept as well, right? If even one person is willing to use your product. We had very early on a trial customer, which was great. It was through a friend of a friend, and our tech broke. I think it was in the first week that we started, and we learned so much from that. And I'm forever grateful to that company. They know who they are. But if you can somehow prove that concept, that's so valuable for an investor, even if it doesn't work out.
This is a quick message to tell you about Alpha. I'm so excited to announce that we have created this incredible new tool which works as your personal AI recruiter. If you are hiring software engineers in the UK, then you need to check this out. Just type in your hiring requirements and click search. It's really that simple. From here, Alpha will identify all the potential candidates on the market. It will then contact the most suitable options for you, and then you will receive the highest quality CVs who are already interested in working for your company. It's 10 times faster than a LinkedIn job advert, and it's 90% lower cost than a traditional recruitment agency. Get your free trial now at welovealpha.com or click the link in the description. One final piece then on your answer, you mentioned narrative, and I think storytelling is so important. The other day somebody asked me what my job was, and instinctually I just said I tell stories. And I think it's kind of true. It kind of came from the gut, but I do. I tell stories to potential users about why they should use our product and why it's the future. I tell stories to potential employees about why they should work with us and why it's a rocket ship. I tell stories to people that are listening to this podcast right now about business, about AI, about the future. Yeah. And I think the best people in the world, they're just the best storytellers. Because if you can create a narrative, you can inspire an army of people to follow you on your mission.
Absolutely, yeah. I often talk about the lady that I spoke to on our customer support chat whose fridge broke, right? And that doesn't sound like a big deal, but 22% of the people in the country have less than £100 in savings. Wow. So what do you do when your fridge broke? It's an emergency. Your food is expiring, right? You've got children that you need to feed. Yeah. What are the alternatives? You know, loan sharks, humiliating conversations with friends and family or your boss asking for a salary advance. And that's where you can really understand how FlexEarn is useful. Yeah. And if I tell that story to an investor, they get it instantly.
Can you just say that start again? 22%, what was the number?
22% of people in the UK have less than £100 in savings. And that percentage is going up.
I had no idea.
Year on year, yeah. And it's all about the cost of living crisis, right? Prices have gone up, 27% since the cost of living crisis started, and wages haven't kept up. And if you're on minimum wage, right, that's a real problem. Yeah. And you might just, be able to make ends meet, but if an unexpected, expense crops up, what do you do? And
you talked about this in the notes when we were emailing. You wanted to talk about the cost of living crisis, because it was something that was in the news a lot, I guess, a few months ago. Yeah. And then everything has kind of happened with Ukraine, Russia, with Israel and Palestine, and then it kind of has become a little bit more back. But the problem is still just as prevalent as it was when it was like in the headline of everything a few months back, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've got some more stats for you. 57% of people, employees, this was in a PwC survey recently, 57% of people worry about their finances more than anything else. And it's incredibly stressful. Yeah, so I mean, a lot of employees that we work with might work in a care home, and they work for a month, and they have to wait till the end of the following month to get their first paycheck. Yeah. And that's a real struggle for people. Yeah. Having worked in banking, I guess I had an advantage. I was working in structured credit, and I really understood sort of credit risk and how to apply that to this business model. And this is a great way for people to be able to access some money when they need it in the face of huge financial pressure.
Cool. You mentioned working in banking there. Yeah. Prior to FlexEarn, you had a successful corporate career with NatWest, with Bank of America, and a few other kind of leading firms. Corporate life is very different to running a startup and a scale-up. I spent 5 years with a massive corporate and kind of went through those FTSE 250 ranks, and it's a great experience. It teaches you a lot, but it's very, very different to wearing many different hats and building your own business. What did you learn from corporate life which you can apply to being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I'd say the thing I learned the most from is when I was 18, for 2 months, I did door-to-door sales. Okay. And,
Me too.
you know, did you actually?
Yeah. I used to go to restaurants and nightclubs trying to pitch. It's a very weird story, but I used to be a professional magician.
Really?
Yeah, long time ago, I traveled the world performing at events and on TV, did Britain's Got Talent and a few other shows. And
I thought I recognised.
Yeah, a bit of baby Alfie perhaps. But I used to go to restaurants, to bars, and go in and offer to perform for free for a while, and then they'd book me off the back of it. But I could do 30 to 50 venues in a day. My feet would be exhausted by the end of it. My voice would be gone. But it was so much fun, and it was doing like I did that for about a year, and I probably learned more about sales from that year than I learned at uni, than I learned all these other different places combined. Like door-to-door sales is the best way to build a thick skin.
Absolutely, and you know, getting the door slammed on you 99 times and having that one person that might say yes is amazing. Yeah. And sales is everything, right? Whether you're doing an interview, you're selling yourself, whether you're speaking to an investor, you're selling an idea, you're selling your business, speaking to customers, obviously. So highly recommend any experience you can get in sales is you know, will do you favors. I guess for me working in banking, it's really understanding risk, right? And that's not just the risk of our business model. It's understanding the risk from an investor's perspective, you know, how they see the risk of your business, what kind of return they need to get on their investment to make this worthwhile, given the fact that, you know, it will probably fail, because most startups do. I guess then understanding scale, having exposure to scale, what scale looks like, how to scale your business, operational rigor. So in banking, obviously you have your market risk, you have your credit risk, you have your operations team, and just understanding how that all works together has you know, served me well. Building networks and credibility. So obviously just being in banking helps me with my CV, but also all the people that I met through that. After banking, I worked in VC for a couple of years. Okay. That was a means to an end, right? Sure. That was me wanting to meet investors because I knew that in the long run I was going to start my own business. And that for me was key because I didn't have to spend the time, you know, and effort that it takes to find investors because I already knew them.
Yeah, your friends.
Exactly. So that was really helpful. So use your current position to build your network and build your skills that might lead to something in the future.
Okay, cool. I completely agree with all of that. I mean, your network is your net worth. It's a cliche term, but like you are the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So if you want to get investment for your company, start hanging out with investors, start learning from them, start making them your friends. And then when you add that value, you give them that goodwill, eventually when you do need support, you'll have a group of people that are happy to jump on that bus with you and drive it to that destination.
Absolutely, yeah, makes sense.
Okay, so a few months ago, you posted some thoughts on LinkedIn around employee burnout. We talked a little bit about, I guess, the financial side that will be causing that a moment ago, but what can employers and employees do to reduce some of this burnout that is clearly happening right now across the world? Yeah,
and clearly, you know, in startups, we experience that a lot. I think there are many things you can do that don't cost too much money. Things like just have an open dialogue with your people. Speak to them.
That's free, isn't it? That doesn't cost anything. Yeah.
And just being able to speak to them really helps them, you know, open up and really helps them. So just have an open chat with them. Prioritize a work-life balance. You as the leader are a role model. So, you know, say 5:30 p.m. turn your phone off, unless it's an emergency, obviously. You know, flexibility and autonomy really helps people. So, you know, trust your people to work at home. That's what we do anyway. Obviously, there are jobs where you have to go into the office. But if people are performing, why not? Why not let them work at home? Give them flexible hours, especially when they've just had children or whatever. Flexibility is so important. Flexible pay through FlexEarn is really helpful to people. And invest in wellness. And that can be, you know, a day doing something valuable for society. It can be lots of things, and give them work that's meaningful. You know, if you work in a care home, what can be more meaningful than that? Sure. And if people feel like they're valued and doing something that helps, and just sort of reinforcing that, I think really, really helps.
Definitely. The care home example is perfect. My mum actually is a carer.
Really?
And yeah, and I think that job is, I think everybody would agree for the most part, that job is massively underpaid for kind of what you do, but it's very rewarding, despite financially it not being, you know, perhaps as lucrative as a banker or something. Yeah. You're probably adding more value to the world, you know, from an objective lens, really.
Yeah, and the reason I mention that is a lot of our customers are carers, and you know, if you can show as an employer that you care for them, they value care because that's the job that they've chosen. And you know, they're probably not earning a lot of money, but all of these little things, you know, maybe a £200 bonus at the end of the year, sure, it goes a really long way in showing that you really value your employees, and it gives them a big lift. Yeah,
those little things, they add up to become everything, and like how you do those little things is like a testament of how you'll do the big things and that sort of thing. You mentioned something interesting then, which I try my best to do, but I constantly fail at, and it's that you mentioned around switching off at like 5:30 and telling your team that they don't have to work afterwards and stuff. And I want to build a culture which is, you know, where people are happy to come to work. They feel like they have got they're not on 24/7. They can switch off. They can, you know, I don't want burnout. Obviously, I don't think anybody says, "Hey, I want burnout." Like, I don't want burnout, obviously, but I can't remember the last time that I stopped working at 5:30 by myself.
Yeah.
I was working at like 2 a.m. last night. Like, but I do it because I love it, because I want to. And I think if people in my team, if they want to work super, super hard, then I'm going to support them to do that. Obviously, I don't want them to burn out. Yeah. Is there a balance, or should there be different rules for entrepreneurs? Because I really find that I don't think you can build a business from 0 to 1 and have it successful if you are switching off at 5:30 every day when you've got competitors that are not, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it's the hardest thing to do, and I'm terrible at it. Yeah. But I've started doing a few things that really help with that. So I go home and turn my phone off.
Okay. Bold. I mean, in 2024, that's like as scary as it gets, but yeah.
It's really scary, but people actually don't mind. They know.
Do you put it in a box, or do you just turn it off?
I turn it off and just put it on the kitchen counter. Okay. Sometimes I turn it back on again and have a quick look. But it's really important trying to be present, and in everything you do, in work as well. If you're, you know, at work thinking about home, you're probably not working as well as you should be. If you're at home thinking about work, you're probably not being present with your kids. So just really focus on what you're doing and try to put everything else out of your mind, which is, you know, a really hard skill. Mindfulness helps with that. So there are loads of apps out there. What's the one? Headspace.
Headspace. I know Michael Acton Smith, who created Calm. I've met him a couple of times. Like, genius when it comes to building stuff. And you know, he built I don't know if it's $1 billion valuation, but certainly hundreds of millions, if not. And I do meditate every day, 20 minutes every morning. Not like, it's not hours as like some monks would do. But it's not 5 minutes. It's a solid 20 minutes, and I stick to it daily. And that has been a game changer since I've been doing that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's a skill, right? As you know, that has to be practiced. And I remember listening to Headspace and think about the clouds as thoughts that come into your brain, and just try and put them away and focus on what you're doing. Whether it's changing a nappy, making dinner, focus on it, because it will be better. And you'll come into work the next day and you'll be better focused at work.
All right, so let's finish with the future, like looking forward. So there's so much happening in tech right now, Jonathan, from Gen AI to Web3 and so many interesting and exciting moonshots happening. I feel like so lucky to be alive right now, because more happens in a 6-month period than previously happened in like a decade. It's just such a wild and also chaotic time to be alive as well. There's equal bad that comes with the good, right? But what are you know, as somebody running a tech company, what are you excited about? What are you interested in? What do you think is going to have a big impact on the future?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Gen AI is incredible, and we've started implementing solutions with our customer support and things like that, only where it's really robust and can give, you know, at least a better answer that we can do. But it's also hugely terrifying. Are you a little bit terrified about AI?
Oh, I stay up sometimes till 2 a.m. working, but sometimes till 2 a.m. thinking about what's going to happen. Like, Like nobody knows. Everybody guesses. Oh, it's going to lead to this. It's going to lead to this. Nobody knows. Because I speak to hundreds of experts, and they all tell me completely different things. So that tells me that no one really knows. Will it lead to utopia? Will it lead to the end of the world? It probably will be something in between, but who knows, really?
Exactly. Yeah, I read a lot on X. I don't know if you do.
Oh, I'm a super user. I live on the app.
Yeah, and there's these tribes. There's the alignment AI people, also known as doomers, depending on what side of the argument you're on. And I think in a few years' time we'll be assessing AI based on multiples of human intelligence, right? Like, as we talk about horsepowers in cars, 400 horsepowers. This AI engine is 400 times, the average human intelligence. And it will just start accelerating as AI learns how to learn. It's incredible. But obviously, today in the short term, the tools that come about are phenomenal. So very excited about AI, very excited about DeFi, democratizing finance. Payments, being in the payments industry is unbelievably complicated. Instructing a bank to, do a transaction with another bank via various third parties. You really sort of understand how complicated payments are. But with crypto, my wallet pays your wallet. It's incredibly straightforward. Obviously, we are embedded finance. So I think that's incredibly powerful. Personalization of tech is hugely powerful and will lead to more loyal customers. There's so much going on right now, and it's an incredibly exciting time to be around. Yeah,
you said something on the Gen AI piece. Then you said when it starts to learn by itself, and I think that is like the holy grail. With our with Alpha's voice screening AI recruiter technology, when we first started, it was like speaking to one of those like call center people where it's like, hey, press 1 for finance, press 2 for all, and it's like, ugh. But as it starts to get better with every single call, as it starts to use the machine learning to grow on itself, it's not linear growth, it's exponential. And then within a few weeks, it's asking questions to you, it's handling objections, it's selling opportunities, it's challenging you, and it gets to a point where it's like, is this an AI or is this human? Is this becoming sentient? Like what is this? And that is a big question with AI. Can it become sentient? Can it become self-aware? Can it wake up?
Yeah, I think what is sentient? I think it will appear sentient.
Yes. But it'll be impossible to know if it actually is, because how do you measure that? You can't.
You can't.
You've got the Turing test, but it becomes irrelevant because there's no way of going ticking a box and going, okay, this is actually alive right now, or it's pretending to be alive. We'll never know truly which one it's doing.
Exactly, yeah. And who knows? I mean, I'm not an expert, but we're not there yet with AGI. I don't know if you ever tried to play chess with ChatGPT 4.0.
Oh, it would destroy me, I imagine. Yeah.
No, it's actually not that good.
Oh, okay, got you. Okay.
So it's great at LLM, but
interesting. But it can do Go. Go.
Can it? Okay.
So I'm not sure if GPT can do Go, but I think IBM had a machine that beat a human at Go. It might have been a very different type of model specifically designed for that game. But I can play a little bit of chess, not very well. I used to be good as a kid, but I just got out of it. But so interesting. So it can beat you at chess, but it can create beautiful music for you, or it can create images which human brains couldn't begin to comprehend, and it's so wild how it works, right?
Exactly. I guess my definition of AGI is one engine being able to do everything better than a human. And as you say, you have engines that are great at chess or coding or whatever, but one engine can't quite do everything yet. But it's really getting close, and who knows if OpenAI has something that they haven't released yet that can do that. But we're getting very close, and it's accelerating. As I say, as they not only learn, but learn how to learn. I think it will only accelerate. I guess we just have to hope that, as Bill Gates said, the good AI is more powerful than the bad AI. We should be fine, but there's a non-zero risk that might not happen, and that to me is scary.
Amazing. Well, Jonathan, this has been a masterclass in starting a business, in getting investors, in dealing with mental health, dealing with the cost of living crisis, in the future of technology, and so many other interesting things that we've covered. If people resonated with this, if they want to learn more about you or FlexEarn, if there's like one place they should go, I'll put a link beneath you right now. What would be the best URL?
Absolutely, yeah. Just contact me on LinkedIn, or we've got a contact us form on the FlexEarn website. Love chatting to people with ideas, investors, always welcome. Customers, I'm very open and love meeting people.
Amazing. Thanks, Jonathan.
Great. Thank you so much, Alfie. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode. I really, really appreciate it. I hope it brought you some value. And if you haven't already, please remember to click subscribe or follow wherever you're watching this podcast now.